Hi guys, this is John here. Now continuing our journey of entrepreneurship. In this lecture, I will talk about an important concept called value proposition. Don't worry about the name, it sounds very fancy, but it's very simple. What have we seen until now? We have seen the first few steps that you will take as an entrepreneur when you start a company. In the previous lecture, we saw an important concept of identifying your customer. So you have identified your customer. Basically, you have pinpointed and said, okay, these are the people who will buy my product or service. Now comes the most important question with respect to your customer is that why will they buy your product or service? And that's the key question you need to answer as an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, you will realize that, well, if they are not going to be buying my product, how am I going to make money? So, in this lecture, we will look at closely what do we mean by value proposition and why is it important for your product or service to be of value to your customer. So let's get started. So guys, in this lecture, we will focus on one very important question, and that is why will someone buy your product or service? So let us look at this in detail. Now, the question is, why would someone buy your product or service? The simple question is your product solving a problem for your customer? So the question you need to ask yourself, what problem does your product or service solve for your customer? So the simple question is that for someone to buy your product or service, you need to solve a problem for the customer. So in simple words, if your product is solving a problem and it's providing a solution, then someone will buy your product or service. So this is very important. You need to ask yourself that your company is building a product or service. And the important point is, ask yourself this simple question: is my product or service solving a problem for the customer? Please ask yourself this question. As an entrepreneur, when you start a company, this is one of the most important questions you need to ask. So let's look at an example. So let us say a person wants to travel from Mumbai to Delhi. So the first option is the person can take a taxi. The second option is they can go by train. The third option is they can go by flight or take an airplane. Now let's compare these different modes of transport. So each of these three services that we saw before, which is first, there's a taxi, so a taxi service. Number two, the service by rail given by the government in India. And third, an air travel service provided by an airline. So these three services, let's compare them. If you compare a taxi to the train is a better option because the train takes less time from Mumbai to Delhi and it also costs less money. However, the taxi will take more time, but the taxi you can travel alone, but in the train you will have to travel with others. So it's a trade-off. But overall, the train option is a better option as you can save money as well as save time. So this is one option. So this is a problem that is being solved for the customer. Second, now let us compare the flight with the train. So when you travel by flight versus you travel by train, so it costs more money when you travel by airplane. But definitely the airplane is much faster, so it will save you time. It saves you a lot of time. Now if you compare it with the train option, the train will cost less money, but will take more time compared to your airplane. So definitely the problem solved by airplane is time versus the problem solved by the train option is money. This is when we compare these two options. So for customers who need to reach in less time, but they are willing to spend more money. So if you have money and you are able to spend it, then the airplane is a better option, versus for train, customers who want to spend less money, but if they are fine with spending more time, then the train is a better option. So the train solves a different set of problems for the customer versus an airplane which solves a different set. Now the question is, which is better? Well, again, there are no right answers here. If you want to start an airline company, you will have customers who want to reach in less time but have more money. If you want to start a train company, your customers will be those who will spend less money but are willing to spend more amount of time. So again, the point is, based on the business and on the customer, so based on the business and the customer, you will solve different problems. You have to see that how your business or your product or your service, how it acts as a solution to your customers' problems or needs. And as I told you before, you need to ask yourself, how does my product or service solve a problem for my customer? So guys, what have we looked at in this lecture? We saw a few important concepts. Number one, you need to ask yourself whether my product or service is solving a problem for my customer. If it's not solving a problem, the customer is not going to buy the product or service from you. Now that's a problem, right guys? So you as a company, you need to identify what problem you're solving for the customer, and second, whether your customer is ready to pay for the product or service that you are providing. Because if it's not solving a problem, then the customer will not pay for it. So please remember that. And we also saw that based on the solution that you provide, you will have a different type of customer. We saw, for example, if you're starting an airline company, then you will attract a different set of customers. If you're starting a company that provides rail service, then you will attract a different type of customer. So basically, depending on your product or service, your customer will also change. But fundamentally, remember one simple point, that your business, whether it's a product or service, has to solve some problem of your customer. It has to make life easy for the customer in some way. So guys, please remember this. And based on the project and case studies, I want you to go through these points step by step so that you're able to understand that when you start a company, you also must look at how you are solving a problem for your customer. So guys, I hope the concepts in this lecture were clear to you. I will see you guys in the next lecture. Thank you.